to Early Center. When I worked as a chairperson for technical and higher education, some of the issues that we stabilized and we were able to control, my source of information was gathered from the Early Warning Center. I attended some of the presentations they did, especially when it comes to academic staff association, their intention to withhold their services to these nations, and also the students' union, what they intended to do. I quickly unfolded my strategies. I was able to reach them, and we diverted that plan they intended to unrest the situation in our country. Honorable Speaker, colleague, honorable members, when I saw the bill, I looked at clause 11, 1, which will leave, Honorable Speaker, the object for which this center is established is to provide early warning to government and issue a possible challenges and threats to human security and peace in Sierra Leone and West Africa sub-region. I think it was a very laudable idea, and the rest of it there. It was a very laudable idea that His Excellency the President on the 29th of June 2020 appended his approval so that this particular center will be established and that will be able to stand the test of time for our job. Honorable Speaker, colleague, honorable members of Parliament, I want to move you to clause 11 2B of this bill. B. Activate the National Early Warning Center response mechanism towards the potential challenges and threats to human security and peace through their report. When I saw the report, on that day I visited the center, what the team, the professionals have put together, ranging from the human security threats and also the environment. When I saw their report on the Lake Somfong, I said almost, I didn't want to shed tears like Honorable Chief the Whip of Opposition, but the way they have degraded that particular environment and not restoring the art, and I said to her, what have you done to this? Then one of the gentlemen that attended that particular section, he said to me, is somebody above? I said, if I was a committee of that particular department, I don't care whether it's somebody below or above, I will challenge that person. This is the thing that we are in Sierra Leone. We want to have a position, but we are scared to act because we do not want to leave that office. I mean, we have a timeline. The fear of driving will never stop you from accidents. Many vehicles. I lost 9 family members between Bo and Tayama highway, and but that will never stop me from driving on that highway. I just have to be cautious. I just have to take all apparatus into consideration so that I'll be able to provide the necessary precautionary measures to avoid further accidents. And the further to that clause 11, 2E, it also says track and evaluate response efforts by relevant institutions and or actors to identify challenges and threats to human security and peace. Madam Minister and Madam Newman, who is heading that particular center, you have a task, and you being the husband of the great crocodile, you know, the man that is there. The wife. So I have to slow down, sorry. The wife of the great crocodile, the knight, and the man coming from the central of Kenema district. You have a tax to play, and that particular tax, as you execute your tax, in the implementing when these bills shall come into full force. Please do it diligently and persevere with whatever you do. I know there will be a lot of elephants will be in the room, but do your best to track them. And if I quickly come to clause 19, 1D, as my honorable colleague said earlier on, is really meant to avoid conflict of interest. You know, what it says there, that somebody will come to give you a very big donation, so that we kind of close your attention, that you will not be able to add a voice. But please persevere. We know you to be the hard-working lady, and your team out there, all the people I met that beautiful day we attended section with. I'm sorry, maybe with time to time again, I will renew my visit to the center. But on clause 19B, 1B, it says loan. I am a little bit scared when people talk about loan. In my postgraduate studies at UCL, I'm very sensitive when we talk about loan. I'm one of those persons who worked very early for the cancellation of Sierra Leone, one of the highly indebted countries in the world. And since then, even when colleagues say to me that they want to take loan to buy a vehicle, which is a very high risk asset, I'm always scared in doing so, because in the twinkle of an eye, you will lose all. If a vehicle is costing around $20,000 to $30,000, being a very essential and very important component of our administration, I don't think we should target to a loan, but it should be grants to the center by government bodies and other personalities that who are interested in averting any issues that has to be a risk that is coming. On that note, Honorable Speaker, colleague, honorable members, I want to say that it is a very short document, 17-page document, that I encourage all colleagues that we do the needful, we dot the I and cross the T, and that so that these people, hard-working ladies, will go back to their respective institutions to add their values to the work of Sierra Leone. Thank you.
I see members are trying to attract my attention, but I've already made a ruling. And I've given the floor to 2 men, 1 woman, and I'm going to take my lady at the back. Yes, you have the floor. I know my great friend, the Honorable Tambakeli, wants to take the floor, but I'm constrained that I've made a ruling earlier. So we may reserve our contributions for the committee stage, and they will be accommodated there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, my own take here is, first of all, let me say thank you to the honorable minister for putting in the work. I know as a woman, when it comes to security and disaster management, we are worried because we are the most vulnerable here. But, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we already have 2 state apparatus in existence, which I think almost have the same mandate with what we are discussing here today. That is the Office of the National Security and the NDMA. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I believe the funds, as we are all saying here always, are not available, or the funds are scarce. If those funds are scarce, why do we go in for another agency instead of broadening the mandate of what we have now? Mr. Speaker, the sources of this agency will be a burden on government. How that will reflect on the taxpayers, which will just connect to our local people who will pay this money to take care of this agency. We will not want to see, because we have an in situations here wherein you will see an MDA come before you and say, oh, I have only 2 workers, I have only 1 car, cannot perform the duty effectively because of lack of resources. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I know the minister is a woman and she's worried, but I believe if we work and broaden the mandates of the NDMA and the ONS, I think we'll have the required or desired results to save the people of Freetown and beyond. Because if you go to their pages, you will see engagement with the ECOWAS. I think whatever we are doing here, let us reflect. We don't have enough. Let us make do of what we have and use it wisely. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, if I could connect on the disaster, we have already 3 disaster-prone areas in Freetown. One is the Old Independent School Road, where we have all the oil companies and the gas. That road is deplorable. We have the Newcastle Street Bridge, a connector of almost all the communities around there, is now a no-go area. And we have the Low-Cost Bridge. Do we wait until we have casualties before we take action? Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I know this bill is a good one, but we already have existing agencies that if we put this money or effort into or broaden their mandate, we can do better with them. Thank you.
But I'm sure the existence of the agencies so mentioned, their functions may be interwovenly related, but I believe their execution and their areas of coverage is completely different. Because like the Honorable Zainab submitted, the early warning unit has been in existence for a very long time. So what is happening from that debate, my understanding is, and by our international and multinational agreement to the ECOWAS, is that we are restructuring it now to make it a formal unit and to have designated assigned functions. Those functions that they have been performing to help the Office of National Security, to help the police, to help the NDMA. Let's not forget, NDMA, what they do is they respond to disaster and try to prevent disaster from happening. But where there are no early warnings, the NDMA would almost be incapacitated because they will not have the necessary tools. So I think we would hear from the minister will tell us anyway. Let me don't make justifications. So we have reached at a convenient point where we will round up. Leader of the opposition. Last night, I don't know Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, before I go straight to the bill, I want to join you on behalf of this side to welcome our colleague MP and staff from the Ugandan Parliament. Indeed, we spoke with them yesterday, and the interaction was, in my opinion, very good. And they are here to visit our budget office. Our budget office, for the attention of the public, is a pride to this nation right now. Any institution, both national and international, listen to us now, that want to get best practice. I advise you to visit our budget office.
Since 5th Parliament to date, most of us members of Parliament, we have been trained by this budget office as to how we go about approving budgets in this house. And we are no longer strangers to the rubrics, the dynamics, and the technicalities. So our budget office is indeed worthy of note. And of course, our mother is from this same parliament, Ugandan parliament. So they are not only here to learn from us, but they are also here to assess us as to how far we have gone. So Ugandan parliament staff, you are most welcome, and I hope you will have a good stay in Sierra Leone parliament here. I also want to join you to commend attendance of MPs. In fact, as a spirit man, I sense it in my spirit that the trend we have taken now is irreversible. The trend we have taken now is irreversible.
OAU High School principal and vice principal. OAU High School senior prefect.
And I know the Honorable Tabakali and the Honorable Williams will be the happiest from today. But they don't know how to come late. They don't know. They don't know how to stay for me. You two will be the happiest from today. But I know this will not be reversed. SO52 will be the happiest from now. You will no longer be suspended. So SO52, we apologize for the past, but we promise we will never do it again. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, when I saw this document yesterday, I consulted my leader. The leader, we have a new bill on our table. Is there an issue? And then he told me, as far as he's concerned, there is no issue. It is not controversial. It is for the good of this country, and his blessings are with us. He's fully right now, and he knows what I'm about to say. And he has given me his blessing to say what I'm about to say. Number one, we are in full support of this bill because it is for the nation, it is for the good of this country. We need to be proactive in our thoughts, in our actions, in everything we do, not reactive. This is a proactive step. So on that note, we have no option but to support because it is for the nation, it is for the good of this country. All we can do at this time is to make it better by raising certain questions as to why certain provisions are being presented the way they are and why. If we are convinced, then it stays. If we are not convinced, we make it better. But generally, we are in support of everything. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, clause 2.1 talks about continuation of this response, early warning response mechanism. It's a continuation. So my question is, if this thing is a continuation, then has there been any specific law regulating the affairs of this early warning mechanism? Has there been any act of parliament? Is there any substantive law?
I would want to suggest that that should be a drafting error.
Yeah.
That would be a drafting error. Taking the cue from honorable design countries and I believe that would be a drafting error.
Yeah.
So in other words, that statement that there is hereby established a continuation should not have been there.
Yeah.
Because I'm confused. You know, I'm confused. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. While on that note, I will skip that for now. Maybe at committee stage, we will correct the error and expunge whatever that may be considered as a drafting error. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, for board membership, including the chairman of the board, the number, I'm not too comfortable with the number. The number is 14. 14 membership of a board is not our usual practice. Because in the event of time, there can be no casting votes. And definitely the executive secretary cannot be a member of the board. There has been an attempt in one of our bids for the executive director to be a member of the board. We refused. Because you cannot be head of administration and secretary to the board, and then you have a voting right as a member of the board. So I believe our intention here is that the executive director is secretary to the board. So therefore, the executive director cannot have a voting right. So in the absence of that, the board membership is 14, of which it is simple for us anyway, whether to put one or add one. But it cannot stay that way. To make committee stage easier, so we do it faster. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, in my opinion, I don't know, but in my opinion, this bill doesn't need any committee. It doesn't need any committee. We can do it here and finish it now. It's not too technical. Most of the issues I'm raising is just to give speed to our committee stage. But there's no reason for any committee of this particular bill. We can do it today and conclude today. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, clause 4. Clause 4, the side note is talking about tenure. That cannot be tenure. That cannot be tenure. It can be placed in an area where one can lose your membership based on certain conditions. You can lose your membership as a board if you die, if you resign, if you are convicted. If you are convicted of an offense relating to fraud, dishonesty, or sexual offense, something like that. But you cannot use just one of your such clause as tenure. Especially clause 4. Clause 4 has nothing to do with tenure. It talks about how you lose your membership. So we need to correct that one. Clause 5. 5 as a quorum out of 14 or 13 or 15 after committee stage. In my opinion, I think it's too small. It's too small. 5 out of 14 to form a quorum to take decision. Maybe you can increase the number a little bit. All these are not difficult things anyway. It's just to give speed. 12-2. 12-2. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, reports, submission of reports cannot be optional. Submission of reports cannot be optional. Once you do a job, you put your job in writing, what you have done in writing, and then you prepare a report. submission cannot be optional. That if I want to, I can submit to president. If I want to, I can submit to the vice president. Or if I don't want to, I can withhold my report. If I submission to parliament, I see no provision here where reports should be submitted to parliament. To me, that's an insult. Annual reports must be submitted to parliament. But there is no provision for submission of annual report to parliament. But apart from parliament, 12.2, the relevant bodies mentioned under 12.2 cannot be optional. In my opinion, submission to president should be mandatory. So the use of media, I'm not too comfortable. And this is for the good of all. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, sometimes I always make reference to my chairman, the legislative committee. Some people say, well, he's not a lawyer, in fact, I will not serve under him. But let me tell you now. That the chairman of the legislative committee is more than a lawyer in this house. That's effective. Very effective. And I will serve under him in that committee. I'm more than willing. But let me tell you what he hates most. You know what he hates? He hates copy and paste. And when you copy and paste, he will fetch you out and you will be caught. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, 12.3. 12.3 is copy and paste. As a red flag. Copy and paste. Copy and paste. I know my chairman will not be happy about copy and paste. It doesn't even match. It doesn't even match. It doesn't flow. You know, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, qualification for executive director, masters, fine. But with 15 years experience, as stated in 12.2e, 15 years. To me, is that necessary? 15 years experience. Then how can the young grow? 15 years. With your masters. With masters. Don't you think 5 years should be okay? Somebody who is ready to do the job, who is up to the task. I think 5 years should be okay. Instead of 15 years. And in fact, about what? I've just learned from this one today. As a he or she. And this is already existing. If that office is being manned by a young lady, in my opinion, there should be no issue of any threat. There should be no issue of any threat as long as it is headed by a female. We've passed that here. That all appointed positions, all elected positions, at least 30% must be women. So women cannot lose the positions they already have under the Agri Act. They cannot lose it. But otherwise, that would be an insult. Except under another law, maybe probably misconduct or resignation or change of office, whatsoever. But otherwise, 15 years is not necessary. In my opinion, that is absolutely not necessary. And in fact, I want to commend the drafters of this bill. The drafters of this bill followed our landmark ruling that heads of administration can no longer have term limits. I was expecting that one, but I never saw it. Then I said, well, no. Subsequent bills now, they are following. Because if you fail to follow, we will point you. If you put it, we will pull it. But thank God, they follow the trend that executive directors, director generals, executive secretaries, appointed by His Excellency the President, remains with His Excellency the President. They can take it at any time, they can serve you at any time. No term limits. Even across the government change. If the new president wishes you to stay, you can stay. If the new president wants to appoint a new thing, there should be no law constraining him to change you. Otherwise, some will even be forced to bulldoze and even abuse the constitutional term limit. It has happened years back. So we've done with that. So I commend the drafters of this bill. They never touch that area. As an executive director, you are appointed by the president. As long as he is pleased with you, you can stay. But for 15 years, I don't think it's necessary. And don't feel threatened. You are protected by the law. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I hate the use of appointments instead of recruits. Even though in practice, it may be the other way around. But for purpose of drafting, we, as this house, we value our records. Our records, we always prefer recruits, not appointment of staff. You don't appoint staff, you recruit. If in real practice now, you don't follow laws of recruitment, you appoint, that's your business. But for our own law, it will be stated recruits, not appoint. Otherwise, it will be abuse of office. And it will allow the employer to be biased or to use to be discretionary. And recruitment is by merit. While appointment is sometimes by favor, not necessarily merit. So I prefer in 15.1 that we use recruits instead of appoint. 15.2, another copy and paste. We are not happy. 15.2, copy and paste. Avoid copy and paste. I don't want my chairman to have short life. Because he will not be happy. 15.2, copy and paste. 19.1b, copy and paste. 19.1b, copy and paste. But on that note, we are coming to committee stage. I'm recommending that for this particular we avoid SO 51.1. We go straight to committee stage, we go to third reading, we pass it. We can do it. So on that note, I'm encouraging my colleagues that I've got word from my leader that his blessings are with us. He has no problem. So we have no reason to have any problem with this bill. It is for the nation, and let us support it. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just observation. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a constitutional point.
Will you reserve your constitutional point for the committee?
Yeah, we raised it. That's the reason I want to speak to it right away. Section 2.1 is not a drafting error.
Honorable member, I take your point, and when we come to the committee stage, we will look at it. I don't know who is going to round up. Is it the chairman for the legislative committee today? Do you want me to give you the floor? I give the floor to the honorable leader of government business.
Mr. Speaker, it's not unparliamentary that he gives the chairman of the legislative committee. It's not unparliamentary.
See, that's an endorsement that we should transfer. But since
It's not unparliamentary.
since you have approved that, I give the floor to the honorable coconut, the captain, the JP for Bukakajama.
Leader of the opposition, I see where you are coming from. They have done well by really scrutinizing the bill and trying to draw some point for us to understand the content of the bill. The content of the bill. It's not appropriate. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, you are a deputy leader, mind your words. For a deputy leader, I'm talking on your behalf, so be very quiet. I hope when you are sitting, you don't believe. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much, leader of the opposition, for making your point very clear. And you raise the issues, and I want to tell my heart to you and your team for the position you have taken to support the bill as a nation looking, because we have so much to cover as a nation. But also, we like, Mr. Speaker, to make some clarifications. It's good when members raise issues, you have to clarify them. First, this particular office was established by government public notice in 2020. The public notice number 105. The government has the right to do that. That's why they stated it in the bill. It's clearly stated. And in fact, in the sub-regional composition, we are talking about ECOWAS block. 11 members, 11 countries, as she read the provisions where they signed to this agreement that we should establish such office in various countries in West Africa. And that's no surprise. And as leader, 4 local leaders, the young promised leader of the APC, who is the leader of the opposition, said they should support the bill. But he knows the merit of this bill, the futuristic aspect of the bill. That is we are talking about the APC leadership. So what they have done, 11 countries in West Africa. Sierra Leone is one, you have Guinea, you have Liberia, Guinea-Bissau, you have Nigeria, you have Ghana, and Gambia, Ivory Coast. All of these countries, they have this office. I said 11, the others I don't want to call them because based on democratic reasons, today they are in office and not functioning. But 8 of them are purely functioning, as I've said. 8, I've just mentioned the names. 8 of them are functioning. The reason why they are functioning is very clear. I read the memorandum of objects and reasons of the bill so we can understand. And I will make comparison and read the long title of the Office of National Security Act. Mr. Speaker, with your leave so that we can understand. Memorandum of objects and reasons. The purpose of this bill is to establish national early warning and response mechanism center, which shall be responsible to provide early warning on issues related to human security and peace in Sierra Leone to provide for other related matters. Because she mentioned Office of National Security, we have to clear in our mind that we are not doing duplications of responsibilities. What we are doing, we are trying to streamline democratic system institutions so they can work effectively to the face of every country. We don't need to deny the fact that we have faced so much security threats, so much, and we need such offices to exist in this country. Let me turn to Office of the National Security and General Intelligence Act 2023, the long title, being an act to repeal and replace the National Security and Central Intelligence Act 2002, Act number 10 of 2002, to provide for the internal and external security of early and to provide for other related matters. Security of Sierra Leone and to provide for other related matters. So these are distinct things that we are talking about. One is talking about purely on security matters, focusing on the internal and external security. This is focusing on issues that have to do with human security and peace. So under the rubric, you will see when I will read also the interpretation of what we mean by early warning. You can understand the reason why we are talking about early warning is different from the Oxford definition of early warning. And this definition is specific. But let me tell you what they have done, colleagues, Mr. Speaker. Since the establishment of this office, it was by government gazette, by government public notice, it was 2020. And it was launched by ECOWAS Commission, and no less a person than the Vice President of this Republic. He launched it in the 13th of September 2021. What they have done, what shall be waiting for, is to look at the framework, what they are doing, and what they have been in conformity with the best practice in the region. So this office, they have generated 195 reports, 195 reports, and 656 recommendations. Mr. Speaker, this is one of the reports. This is one. National Early Warning and Response Mechanism Coordinating Center. The reason why they are existing is really because they are in conformity and they want to follow best practice as in other countries of the same center we are talking about. So maximize to also enhance that proximity policing for both for national and also local levels. Both national and local. What we are saying at the local level, for example, community, they raise alarm. For national level, they also raise alarm. So, Mr. Speaker, let me tell you the data based on their recommendations from the report that they have generated. The MPOX we are talking about, let me start from that point. The MPOX we are talking about. In May 2022, When we heard about mpox in the United
This
Kingdom,
information from records or at home?
this one I've been reading the report.
Someone has taught the king of the lion. Someone has taught the king of the lion.
I don't want to compliment what you have been doing as a nation and systems are working. I don't want to compliment them. It's you I want to compliment. They are not looking at you. They are paying attention somewhere else. Am I shouting? I said they generated police report 195 and recommendation 656. So, Speaker, I know I'm going to make reference to clause 9 to B. By following me, mention of that. I read that conclusion when I come in. But let me give you this analysis. Why this office is important. mpox. In May 2022, when we heard about the outbreak in the United Kingdom, people started very worried because we are very close to that country by movement, by religion, by colonialism, etc. So in August, the same year, 2022, this institution, they produced a report giving signals of the mpox outbreak this year. So, Speaker, we ask ourselves, what have we been doing with the reports? Today we have mpox. We just discussed about mpox in this chamber a few weeks back. These are the reasons why we should have these institutions. Let us be strong institutions, not men and women. Madam is here today, telling us about the reality we are facing, why we should have institutions. This is one. The Yenga issue. Let me tell you. Yenga. And also in 2023, January, they also produced another report talking about cross-border insecurity. Cross-border insecurity. In fact, they went to Yenga. In the report is mentioned. They went to Yenga. They raised their alarm. Now, in the same year, 2023, in June, they also raised the issue of reposition of ordinance, what we saw today. 2 years back. 2 years, or almost. This is what you have been doing. This is what anyone has been doing to make sure that they do. As a government. Mr. Speaker, what we have been doing as Mr. Speaker, I am very happy. Mr. Speaker, I'm not missing my words. This is what we have been doing as government. I have said this many times. You want to point of order, Mr. Speaker, point of order.
I'm really out of order because we are completely in order. They are telling us what they have been doing.
He said before we started the debate that whosoever has interest in this bill should put us.
No, we understand me.
I accept the chief wants to take me off the structures.
I'm sorry, Mr. Leader. Sorry, sir.
As government, this is what you have been doing. So you notice. Mr. Speaker, so in same year, between January and June, they have in the report 656 recommendations. I'm not shouting. I'm just at my best. I'm going quietly. Mr. Speaker, people want to think of the government. I'm on the leader of government. We are in government. We have been giving these notices to institutions to make sure that we function effectively as we are. But Mr. Speaker, to a more serious note, if we take these recommendations very seriously, very, very serious, as she has said, most of these issues, emerging issues, when posing threats to humanity or human security, there must be, if we have taken them seriously, please talk about peace and stability. Even in November 26th, Leone also, they gave also information to the government. So they are giving us speed to have a stable state. That is why I'm making this highlight, so that you understand what you're making. and what you have been doing. And let me tell you, my colleague on the other side said, nobody should worry about the tenure, the time, how many years. Over 50%, the Gender Act, this institution is very structured. Over 50% of the staffers are women. They are women. So this is a complete conformity in what we are doing. As we are combining ourselves with regional block system in terms of policies and making commitment to curb gender parity, this one institution we can bluff it that over 50% are women, and they are doing extremely well, not at the bottom position, but they are at the pinnacle of that particular institution. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, let me bring you to speed on the early warning issue. What we need to understand what we mean by early warning. It's not an Oxford definition. It's a definition pointing finger directly to the early warning issues. What is all these institutions all about? I have read a long time. I have read the memorandum of objects and reasons. People need to understand the basic definitions. My colleagues on the other side, they did not miss the point in clause 12.3. Clause 12.3. They did not miss that one. It's deliberate because the word commission is also defined in the interpretation of this. When we come to the committee stage, we can deal with that one decisively. But let me bring you back to early warning. Early warning means the provision of timely. This is the reason why I'm reading it. Early warning means the provision of timely and useful information to government through identified public sector institutions on issues relating to human security and peace, Madam Minister, which may expose the state, individuals, or communities to threat, dangers, crises, or hazards for the purpose of early response and risk reduction. That's the reason I read this particular definition. It entails so many things. Mr. Speaker, let me draw your attention to clause 9.2d. 9.2d. I'm reading this in tandem in clause 26 of the bill. Yeah. It said, upon receipt of reports from centers, ensure early response or actions are instigated by the responsible authorities. And why I said I'm doing it in tandem with clause 26 is clause 26 talking about regulations. Mr. Speaker, I mentioned when I started about 2022 about MPOX, and I talked about 2023 about INGA. The reason why we should take both of them, when reports are generated, given to institutions, they should not be in the shelf to gather dust. We should ensure there are full implementations of the recommendation contained therein. We should. So that is what we are talking about MPOX. So, Madam Minister, I encourage you in this particular provision you have stated, tie it to the regulation that you are going to bring to this parliament. And in fact, I perfectly want to agree with my colleague on the other side. You did talk about annual report, but you did not mention parliament. I thought that's why it's a big error in the drafting of the bill. But clause 9, sub-clause 2D makes it very clear that you should instigate a particular action by responsible ministry or authorities. That is what we should do to give effect, so that their work can be looked at as one of the best in the sub-region or even in surrounding, so that we can mitigate some of the definition we have in as early warning, reduction of risks, talking about protecting humanity against natural disaster, etc., etc. But Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me remind you about the structure of the board. That is clause 3. Clause 3. There is a paramount chief representation from Parliament on the board. That's a very good one, because this thing is very serious. We are talking about community issues. We are talking about things that affect, we're talking about security, and these are representing our people at the local levels. And in fact, in the definition, the omnibus provision in the composition of early warning and response mechanisms, we have talked about that the proximity policing at local and national levels. So we must look at local representations. So we kill in the paramount chiefs. So that the representation is specific from Parliament. It has to be from Parliament, as stated in the bill. For me, the composition of the board is statutory to give effect to the functioning of a particular board. But what is very key to us, Mr. Speaker, is clause 8 of the bill. Clause 8 is very important. Clause 8.1 gives an insight of what is really happening at early warning and response mechanisms. But let me read clause 8.1 for you, Mr. Speaker, so we can understand what you're talking about. Clause 8.1, colleagues. 8.1. That is the committee of the board. We further in this particular clause, you will see where they are going to form subcommittees to deal with professional aspects, because they are going to be, of course, it's happening. We are expecting natural disaster at this time of the year in Sierra Leone. So they are talking about subcommittees and subcommittees. But let me read clause 1, clause 8.1, Mr. Speaker. Clause 8.1 for the board, which I've said the composition is statutory. My colleagues question the quorum of the bill, the quorum of the board. The board may, for the discharge of its functions, appoint committees or subcommittees in response to emerging issues. For example, the motorway issue. In fact, an analysis was given that they have done long analysis about the issue of motorway, but nobody took it very seriously. Nobody. They did not. If they have taken it seriously, we should have not got that disaster that befell us. Of course, my colleagues just telling me that because we did not take it seriously, before the advent of motorway crisis, a survey was key for the Ministry of Finance. Remember at that time, there was no early warning and response mechanism center. Yes, Kenneth Moore. So people are saying the spirit is fighting people who are going to that place. Today that place like a shrine for certain people. And it was brutally murdered. They gave warning, but at that time, nobody was there to generate people as we are now happy enough for the early warning and response mechanism center. So clause 1, 8.1 is telling about including natural disasters. This is one we are talking about. Natural disaster, public health emergencies, national security threats. As I said earlier, August 28 was predicted by this same committee, by this same center. Nobody took this seriously. Or other critical incidents regarding the relevant expertise as it may deem necessary. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the collaboration of this center with other responsible MPs, even when subcommittees are formed, this committee needs to have synergy with other relevant MPs, especially MPs who are directly affected by prone issues that have to do with disaster, health security, human security, and also the stabilization of our peace and consolidation of our democracy. Mr. Speaker, let me read for you again, clause 2C, clause 8.2C. Upon, if you guys said they are going to establish committees, subcommittees, so that you can get professionals coming from different areas that has to do specific issues that we are going to be dealing with. Upon its establishment, we assign a clear and explicitly defined mandate to access emerging issues, develop actionable recommendations, and coordinate with relevant agencies and organizations. I took my time to read it very slowly so that we can understand the languages. I did not shout. The phraseology of this particular clause is deliberate. It's actually deliberate. So that because this recommendation, Madam, as I mentioned to you, Madam Minister, we say recommendations, 656 recommendations we are giving. Though we don't know how many people took it very seriously. We don't know how many people really complied with the recommendations. We can't tell. So what you are saying, we should in fact put in a regulation for penalties. That's why I said clause 9 to D must be 10 to 26 by levying penalties for those who fail to adhere to the recommendations contained at the end of the report. So, Madam Minister, in your regulation, take note. People have to be People have to be held culpable for certain things that you are doing, for treating report negligently. Mr. Speaker, when such committees are formed and when they are established by the board itself to carry out specific mandate, clause 8.3, clause 8 sub clause 3 says you cannot continue after the expiration of your mandate given to you by the board. That we are going to stay here for let us know. It's 3 months, the end of 3 months, that committee is dissolved. So they stated in clause 8.3 very clearly that that committee must be dissolved and that one is taken care of after submission of their report. And 9, as I said, I keep on talking about it, is very clear and stated in the PA. Let's look at the function of the center. We have talked about it, but let's take 1 or 2. Where we have in civil society. I will not bore you to go back and read. I mentioned it 11.1, plus 11.1. But let's look at the other one that has to do with the civil society, ECOWAS. That is why they said commission. It was a deliberate, not copy and paste. Let me take you to clause 11.1, 11.2a. 11.2a. So we can see that this is a broader spectrum of representation or collaboration. This center has to do with a lot of collaborations with different MPs, whether you like it or not. That is why we are saying, in fact, in generating the report, Mr. Speaker, I believe if they can set up to call a portal system where people can access the report, but MPs who are directly affected by recommendations in the report, this will have a special committee set how they can implement those recommendations coming from the center. Now let me read this provision for you. A 11.2a. Collect, centralize, analyze data. They collect, they centralize, and analyze, and exactly what they are doing. Data or information provided by public institutions, local authorities, civil societies, organizations, the ECOWAS regional early warning and response centers, or other legitimate information sources. This is what we are talking about, this type of setting. That you don't just do because you want to function, you want to generate. In fact, the reason why you need to analyze your reports because you don't want to have this copy and paste or manufacture reports from your text. No, we don't want the center to be like that. In fact, people in the early warning center, these people are very credible, very loving people, very marvelous, fantastic, they are very intelligent people. Wow. And in fact, the head of the president head is the director. It's a very loving person. You understand? Yeah. Let me go back to 12.3 plus 12.3. It's not copy and paste. Because if you go, Mr. Speaker, if I can get your attention, we come to that, my leader. I have to be respectful for your view. But I just want. We define what the meaning of commission. Commission is defined in the under interpretation. That is clause 1. Commission is defined means a commission of ECOWAS Committee of West African States. So what they are saying in clause 12.3, they are referring specific where you want to have special reports to be generated. If you want to generate special reports, as you do have for the audit. The audit normally asks for special report to be generated because there are issues coming like we have for the Ebola. They called for the special audit report, and that was given which indicted people. And this one also, the president, he said, let me read this clause. The president, the board, or the commission, because the commission is part of the system. This is a sub-regional organization because they heard from what the minister read that how they came about to establish this particular center is coordinated coordination with other countries that do have the same institution as we do. The president, the board, or the center, notwithstanding subsection 2, request the center to submit a special report relating to a specific, let me go by my words, relating to a specific threat or incident. For example, the president may ask now, can I get another finding about the mpox? What they will do, perhaps they will just go back to their previous recommendations that they made in 2022 in August. They said, sir, we did talk about imports, trends, and this is what we recommended, recommendations. What happens? They are not enforcers of the law. They just stop at some point and do their recommendations, so that they can still govern into certain areas where they are taking issues of great importance that has to do with human security and to stabilize our peace. These are the issues. Imagine issues are always coming. We are poor countries. That is definitely we have accepted it. That's why we are fighting to elevate ourselves from this poverty level. So, in comparison, to take up to a better state, to a better height, these are some of the things that we need to do. Take our reports and recommendations very seriously and act upon those recommendations. Madam Minister, make sure your regulation, there are penalties levied on institutions that fail to comply with the recommendations. Let me tell you, in 2022 Finance Act, people don't have respect for the internal auditors, and they just treat audit reports as if they are not serious. Audit report is not to them. In fact, it's not their business. Let them just lie down. It's just a service work towards documentation. What we did in that Finance Act, there is still a law, and the chairman of the speaker now is the chairman of the Public Account Committee. Now, if you don't comply with your internal audit recommendation and also address the issues of internal audit coming from the national audit, the Auditor General, take it from me, you cannot get your issues. It's wrong, except you don't want to implement it. So I'm also encouraging you. So we cannot just be a report lying down there with all the hard work analyzing the report. We have done everything necessary to prevent catastrophe to come to our country or to humanity, and you say you cannot respect and uphold the recommendations. No, you have to. You have to, definitely. Let me take you to. We have dealt with that one, and very clear that is what we are. That is the reason we have commission within the police center. Under of course, my colleague mentioned about the secretary to the board. We have the secretary, we be director to be the secretary to the board. We can deal with that one when you come to that point. But let me take you to financial provisions. Mr. Speaker, I know you are an expert and you are chairman for Public Account Committee. I don't want to draw your attention, and I'm doing it in tandem with Section 114, specifically, if you don't mind, Section 4 of the Constitution, Act number 6 of 1991. Let me repeat myself. I'm tying clause 20, sub clause 2, financial provision and expenditure. The physiology of this particular clause, look at it. It's not in completion, but there is an act, or there is a constitutional provision making reference to this one. Talking about side note, withdrawal of monies from this is a public revenue for the general revenues or the public revenues. That should be the side note, withdrawal of monies from the general revenues. Mr. Speaker, this provision is saying, let me read 22. The center shall not incur an expenditure exceeding exceeding its budget without the written approval of the board. It's not the BIN law. For one moment, you go through that particular provision. You have to look at even where then you have talk about the public funds emergency. Which 114 is talking about? It has to see the consent of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, 114 subsection 4 is very clear about that. Madam Minister, the board should come with recommendations to you. You take it to the Minister of Finance. Finance now, we generate in the form of an instrument, bring it to Parliament, perhaps the Finance Committee, and put the report that this is what you want to do. You cannot just incur expenditure because you think you cannot do it, you have the revenue. In fact, they are not revenue generating entity. But this is good for all those who are revenue generating entities. You want to expend money more than your allocated figures given to you by Parliament. It was an act of Parliament. That's why it's complete violation of the law, and you have to be held culpable for that. So I just want to draw my colleagues' attention to that. I'm an minister for you to take note of those provisions. And those provisions are very clear in the Constitution. So I think I have talked about regulations. Regulations are there to make sure that you comply. So after we have enacted law, we take our time to use the regulations. The regulations are going to bring to Parliament. These regulations are there to streamline, to capture what you have not captured, and to see how best we can by most of the recommendations, especially that one that are coming from the center. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, As I've said in my contributions, I've highlighted the issues that has to do with the report, what they have generated, and also the structure of this particular entity, what they are doing, reading the memorandum of objects and reasons for us to understand clearly that we are not in conflict with other institutions. In fact, everybody is functioning as a lone partner in terms of progress of this nation. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleague, without much ado, I still want to recommend that we continue with the committee stage. I follow the footsteps of my colleagues on the other side, that we continue to be at the committee stage. Because this one is forward-looking. Juristics is mitigating a lot of things against a progressive nation. We are alert every moment, every hour, so that we as a nation can progress in the interest of peace, in the interest of stability, in the interest of national security. Thank you very much. May God bless us all.
I want to thank the Honourable Leader of Government Business for his wonderful contribution in his bill. He has demonstrated his knowledge.
Mr. Speaker, every bill is a bill in this house. Why this one is so personal? Every bill is a bill in this house.
They are the ones causing the problem.
The bill is coming from the first constitution.
Exactly. Madam Minister.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I think my task here was to respond to some of the issues, but I think the leader has made a comprehensive response for all of us. But I would just like to expand on one or two issues or emphasize one or two issues. After thanking the members for supporting the bill, on the issue of duplication, the Honourable Leader has already mentioned that the centre is necessary, it's part of the national security architecture and part of the sub-regional security architecture. It's absolutely essential that we do have a centre like this for the reasons that he gave. He mentioned the 656 reports. And at this stage, I would like to commend the assiduous work ethic of the centre led by Madam Numa and her team. Because these reports have also averted some disasters that you may not even have known about. Because as much as you say that the recommendations need to be shared, some of the recommendations are so sensitive that they just need to be acted on. You have mentioned the Mpox and Yenga, but even up to last week, there was a security threat in Kisi Tongi, between the Liberia and Sierra Leonean border, that was raised by the centre. And the proactive Minister of Internal Affairs responded and had meetings with the Minister of Internal Affairs, Liberia, and the community. And although it was more or less a rumor, but it averted any conflict in the community to the point that the President of Liberia offered to provide support to a bridge that was being built in Sierra Leone, connecting the two communities. So in terms of what sort of levy that we should impose on those that do not respond to the recommendations, this will be looked into, Honourable Leader. But in all of the other areas, I believe that you have given the justification, every justification that I would give. So this would be my response. And on that note, I would like to move. The last one. And so, in the light of this, Mr. Speaker, honourable members, I move that the bill, I think I read this, entitled the National Early Warning and Response Mechanism. I don't think this is the one actually. Okay, Act, be read for the second time.
Yes.
Okay, all right, be read for the second time.
Honourable members, the question is that the bill entitled the National Early Warning and Response Mechanism Center Act 2025 be read the second time. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The bill entitled the National Early Warning and Response Mechanism Center Act 2025 being an act to establish a National Early Warning and Response Mechanism Center which shall be responsible to provide early warning on issues relating to human security and peace in Sierra Leone and to provide for other related matters has been read the second time. The House resolves into committee of the whole. Please cover weeks of parts 1 to 6, clauses 1 to 26, and the schedule stand part of the bill.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, honourable members, I move that parts 1 to 6, clauses 1 to 26, and the schedule stand part of the bill.
Honourable members, the question is that part 1 to 6, clauses 1 to 26, and the schedule stand part of the bill. Page 1, Chairman Legislative, I understand you are going to lead us.
No, well, not like it's not a report, but I was.
Edition, it's about the edition.
I listened carefully to the points raised during the debate, especially from the acting leader of opposition.
Why are you shouting?
From the acting leader of opposition, and also some of the clarifications made by the leader of government business. So it is against this backdrop that I've made some points that I think I'd like to be coming so on and off with. So I think we start with let's look at the short title. We have been an act to establish a national early warning and response mechanism center, which is responsible. So we have.
Long or short? I think. Sorry, I think I would have to use part of my powers to ask Mrs. Liman to go for the chairs. She is creating a lot of confusion. Our leader is confused. Our chairman is confused. What is the problem?
Before that, Mr. Speaker, before that, let's even look at the arrangement of sections. I think we need to include under part 6 miscellaneous. We need to include the schedule because we have a schedule at the back of the bill and it's not provided for under the sections. If you look at page 16, there is a schedule there. And it's not stated. Maybe we need to get that under part 6 miscellaneous to still be able to have a schedule.
So it should come before 26. Should it or come after? So it becomes 27, right?
Absolutely.
Your number?
Yes.
Okay,
we just need to incorporate it there because there is a schedule there.
So take note of the amendment.
I think the short title is fine from this end, except otherwise. I was going straight to the long title because the short title is not even listening.
The long title?
Because we've seen different bills and how we arrange them. I was going to suggest a rendition that it should read, instead of what we have there now, being an act to provide for the establishment of the National Early Warning and Response Mechanism Center, to provide early warning on issues relating to human security and peace in Sierra Leone, and to provide for other related matters. So, it has to be an act to provide and straight to establish, because it's going to make provision for the
So
establishment.
what we are going to add is to provide.
So I'll submit to the class the rendition being an act to provide for the establishment of the National Early Warning and
So we are
Response.
adding to provide for the establishment.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
And in addition to that, taking into consideration the NASCAR, the NCP experience. I just want to ask, NCP, is it here? I said taking into consideration the NCP experience.
Okay.
Taking into consideration the NCP experience, what we met, the challenges we met while we are doing the legislative committee hearing. So based on that, and taking into consideration here, plus 2.1, the use of the word continuation of an existing system. If we agree that that continuation is principle is key, it should stay, then I'm suggesting that we include it in the long term. If we are really agreeable with that continuation of the present system, as stated in clause 2.1, or as you said earlier, if we agree that it is a draft in error, then the log that you can see as the relation has been given by the chairman of the legislative committee. But if we agree that that continuation is principle, is key, based on our NCP experience, he knows what I'm saying. If that is key, then we must include it in the long title.
I don't believe in as much as I listened to leader and I took note of the fact that it was set up by an executive directive and was gazetted in an extraordinary gazette, but I'm not sure it meets all the requirements set out in section 106 of the Constitution. So it cannot be continuation as the discount.
So, Mr. Speaker.
Let me listen to what Mr. McKenzie.
Mr. Speaker, the body was set up under the expansive executive powers conferred on the president by section 53. So what it means is that this bill merely is intended to metamorphose, to cause the bill to metamorphose and coagulate into law. So I think it is correct that it is a continuation. These are executive powers. The president has uncommon executive powers conferred upon him under section 53. Analogous to what we see Donald Trump doing today in America. So yes, it is not a drafting error, it is deliberate, it is a continuation of what has already been initiated by the president. So I think it will stay. And as the leader of the government business intimated this happening, this body has been in existence before this bill. So all we are doing is to catapult it into law. Yeah. And therefore, we should not emasculate what His Excellency has done.
Sorry, before I take you, I would want to draw the attention of the honorable member that while section 53 gives the president the wherewithal to act within his executive scope, but let's also be reminded of the provision in section 40, subsection 4, paragraph A. And in as much as the president has powers to institute constitutional and legislative reforms into Sierra Leone, but the proviso in 4 says it has to come to parliament. So if we take 53 and 44 and 106, we get all three in tandem, we will realize that for the word continuation to be included in the bill, it must fulfill all of these requirements. It must have come to parliament. In as much as it had the force of law, but now that we are legitimizing it, we are legislating it properly. We are legislating the intention of the president properly. I believe we should remove the word continuation and stick with the rendition given by the chairman.
Okay, the rendition by the chairman is okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And in fact, Mr. Chairman, that rendition is going to make a strong foundation for the new rendition that is going to use in 2.1, which is going to be
So we are yet to come to 2.1.
Yes.
Let's go systematically.
Okay. Page
let's do it systematically and practically.
Yes, sir.
So page 2, if we're okay with short and long, page 2. Page 3.
Page 3, the third paragraph. We have.
Which of the definition?
There we're talking about good faith.
Good faith.
You know, good faith, like public interest, have been buzzwords in this parliament, and especially when we try to qualify them. So, since we'll have to be asking ourselves the questions, how do you really determine good faith, or the determination of good faith is only going to be limited to what we have here? I don't know. I think it's advisable or recommended that we get it out, we delete it.
Yeah, I think
the court determines.
The court determines what good faith is.
That will be determined after gauging the mood of the environment at that point in time.
Yeah, it's good. But let me just stretch the minds of colleagues to look at the definition properly. Yeah, because this time I remember when we had them on good faith, in the other context, it was not defined and clearly stipulated in the rules. For this one, they are giving some explanation, giving specific adjectives towards good faith. Perhaps we should open up our minds to see how best we can digest this one. Perhaps we need to leave it or we delete it permanently. Let me read it again. Good faith means the principle of acting honestly, good faith, fairly, and with the best intentions, without an attempt of deceit or taking advantage of situation. So for me, although the word is ambiguous, it depends. But what they are saying in this context, that they are trying to skew the word good faith into a position where you can understand why they are referring to good faith. So in the interpretation, where you have to ask in good faith, it comes in the context of the definition of a particular word. Good faith as given us in the Bible. That is my take. But I want to hear from you, Mr. Speaker, what I call it. And good faith as defined. Mr. Chairman, sorry.
The court will never compromise that good faith. No. You cannot define, you cannot show the court that this has to determine good faith. Because human beings, we are very unpredictable. And the circumstances are also very unpredictable. Circumstances, situations may be very unpredictable. In the 80s, if you talk about the complexity of social media now, you cannot bring it that such will be order of the day during the 80s. You cannot. So you cannot define. In fact, even if you define it, court will not be. The court will be. I know the court. They will be just implement. When it comes to matters of good faith, they define good faith. They decide on good faith based on the circumstances before them. It's not by definition when you move. Every other law. Good faith is left with the court. Okay. You cannot define it.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, time is past 12. I therefore need us to spend this with fair to the business of us to. Any second after that motion?
I so second, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those against, say nay.
I also seconded to draw your attention, Mr. Chairman.
For good faith? Absolutely. I think we should respond to good faith.
No, let me come again before we respond. Let me come. We are not. I hope my another colleague on the other side.
No, they don't play with that one though.
Another colleague on the other side. Who I have very respect for. I hope you are not struggling to conclusion in interpreting. I am a lawmaker. I'm behaving like a layman. For me to make you, I must behave like a layman. I'm not saying the judge doesn't have jurisdiction of what is in front of the judge. I'm saying in the interpretation, somebody acting contrary to the act. Someone acts contrary to the act. You can now determine what we are doing for faith as defined by law in this act, not by what is in front in the general terms of faith. So we are saying if you are found open in the violation of the provisions of this act, is specific, that we are not charging you did not act in good faith. Now they will now come to define, not general definition, but they have added up good faith. You will now go back to the law and say, okay, Parliament, by an act, Parliament, the supreme legitimate body to make law. I will define this one, good faith, and they will start to look at this one by one. And for me, if you don't act really, even within the jurisdiction of the court, You are talking about something different. I'm coming. I don't want to stretch my mind so I can understand. I act like a layman. I have not acted honestly. I have acted in a very dishonest way and deceitful way. I have not done what I'm supposed to do.
And that can be perceived by the court as good faith.
It can be perceived by the court as good faith.
Yes.
If I have acted dishonestly.
You may sound
in your mind, I want to understand in the
course of executing certain performance, you may think what you do is perversive. The court may determine illegal realism as good faith. That is why the court will hold that jurisdiction as part of their interpretation.
So they will not accept for us a good faith.
Yes. That is why the whole second.
The last clarification, if you have found four people in violation of it, so using this law, you are in front of the judge trying to make a decision. Now you did not act in good faith because I acted in good faith in compliance with the act.
Who finds you culpable? It is the court. Like you said, the determination of the power of
in line with the definition of the good faith in it as defined. That's my argument.
That is why we want to export it. So the court cannot compel you to. So good faith is gone.
For the very first time, we accept. Oh yeah, I accepted it. No, where's the
Mamidia and the university and research.
Still on page 3, Mr. Chairman. Yes, paragraph 7. We have here, Minister means the Minister of Planning and Economic Development. Yes, that's the actual idea that we really want to present. But then we have better wordings to do that. Suggest the rendition that Minister means the Minister responsible for planning and economic development, and ministry shall be construed accordingly. Because we're dealing with the Minister.
That is the rendition of Parliament, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So we add that. Simple act.
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir. Honorable Kelly.
Still on page 3.
That's my own security.
Circular. It says human security means protecting. So that's the function of human security, to protect. But what is human security itself?
To look after yourself, avoid mpox, avoid anything that
I'm talking about the definition, which I think is circular. It talks about protecting. So the human security itself is the concept. The protection is the function.
You should like my definition. You like it?
No, I mean it's circular. What do you prefer?
We don't understand.
Means human security means protecting. But what is human security itself? Protecting is a function. That's the function of the human security.
No, but they went further, sir.
They went further to say that human freedom,
the omnibus provision.
Human fulfillment from severe and widespread death and situations.
Yes.
So I think they qualify it in
the qualifier.
There is a qualifier after protection. So I think it suffices. It covers every aspect of human security.
Mr. Chairman, sir.
I have a problem with peace definition.
Yes, sir. On page 3, sir.
On page 3, why are you still? Why are we wasting time on page 3?
Because the definitions.
The definitions and the concerns. Yes, Mr. Speaker, of course, the bill tries to link together or brings together different sectors like health, the security sector, as well as the environment, in the event that we need to protect our communities. But the definition of minister here is limited to the Minister of Planning. So the question is, in the event that we have an issue relating to security, do we still need to contact the planning minister, or we can just add the other sectors?
No, what they do is the early warning mechanism. The National Early Warning Mechanism reports to the Minister of Planning and Economic Development. So what they do is they provide early warning signal for every ministry, department, and agency to alert them. So that is why if you look at the board composition, it encompasses all other ministries that are related to early warning representatives. But somebody has to be assigned the responsibility to manage the agency. Are you satisfied? Very well. Page 4. Page 5.
No, page 1.
Chairman, you should now give us the rendition for 2-1.
2-1, yes.
Mr. Chairman, the rendition is there is hereby established the body to be known as the National Early Warning and Response Mechanism. Of course.
So, yes, hereby established
The body to be known as the response.
body to be known. I think that's fine. Page 5. I have problem on page 5.
Yeah, Chairman, I think for some reason we all do it was an area that needs to be revisited.
Mr. Chairman,
especially when we look at the board composition.
Okay. Yes, sir. Over time, we've enacted laws here, and we've seen statutory representations on boards, and that has been a bottleneck for the board to meet across. Some of us we've been getting this side information the way we set the board, because these are almost 80% are institutional representation, and they are very senior members of government.
It is not institutional, it's personal.
Okay, but the head is short. Okay, the head is short. So okay, so if we can make them institutional, I think it's better. Either this or senior most or the senior director or below. Mr. Chairman is participating. It's part of the debate. I see. I am just suggesting.
You see, my boss have told you in the past that the wood is us.
Yeah,
we are the wood.
Mr. Chairman, yes. So that is the more reason.
So we are part of the question.
So that is the more reason.
And over and above that, unlike my boss, I am also a member of parliament. Don't forget.
Mr. Chairman, but when you sit there, you
and in 2 categories. When I sit here, I lead. When I sit down there,
you debate and you participate. So, but when you see this,
it is a complex position. So once I go down there, the leader of complex business take over.
Mr. Chairman, I can understand. Thank you. I can understand the issue. I've said times on number, but we don't do the administration. We don't do the administration. Enact. Let me not see. When I was doing the presentation, I said it's a regional government. All over the country. The vice president, all of us, who are Ghana, Nigeria, Chad. That is right. So it's the same composition we have. And don't forget, we are talking about essential services that we are supposed to offer to the states. If you have called, for example, the English, in the recommendation they made in 2023, in January and June, if you are taking that into serious consideration, what you are seeing, I think that today now, if you are talking about different, mitigating it completely, but people desire to ignore. So you're taking the minister to represent, telling you that you have to go there to represent that because of issues coming on in as very vital issues taking care of the state in terms of human security and the stability of stability. So the reason why we should have them, because they are coming from there now. That's why we don't go into administration. We have signed senior member in the ministry to say, you, my deputy, you make sure that this is your responsibility to take care of this particular board meeting, always attend. That's how we should do. But if you don't say ministry, who's going to be in charge? You don't want to be like the ministry. No. Somebody has to take responsibility. That's what I said. The minister of this, the minister of this. Yeah. So the PS can represent them.
And I agree with you taking into consideration the spirit of Section 62 of the Constitution. Ministers responsible for ministries, and they are directly in charge for the supervision of these ministries. So accordingly, if you are creating an early warning mechanism structure, the ministers should be designated.
My point was not my concern was not about the minister, but since the leader has spoken very
your concern?
No, I think the queue. He has spoken well.
Thank you.
I think the queue.
I think where our problem is the fact that we have the deputy chairman as the chief minister. The constitution of the office of the chief minister is at the prerogative of the president.
Thank you. That's why I'm standing. We might have a situation where we don't have a chief minister. That's why I'm standing. Thank you.
That would be constituted and is called the office of the chief minister.
What happens when we don't have a chief minister? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, maybe before that, we can agree first of all on something, the point that the leader of government business was trying to raise. In terms of representation, a couple of times we've used a very smooth rendition talking about, for example, the governing body of the center shall be a board which shall consist of the vice president and the following other members.
The vice president, who shall be the chairman?
Yes, who shall be the chairman, and the following other members, all their representatives, not below the rank of the director. Straight away, you make it clear that
I still hold the view that section 62 of the Constitution.
It's a suggestion.
Take note of section 115. That anything that is in contravention or inconsistent with the Constitution is not an issue. So the fact that section 62 puts ministers above and in direct control and supervise the authority for ministries, departments, and agencies, it is implied that if they don't go, they must send people at senior level. But for early warning, I believe the designation is right, that we get the ministers themselves. So when they discuss it, they can now cascade the information to their representatives or their implementing agencies. So how do we take care of the issue of the chief minister?
Mr. Chairman, I think if you did, you just put 62, I will take reference 61. Go back 61. The president is said to have an office of, even the minister of the development ministry, these are not really mandatory offices. You know very well. Cannot. Any president can come in and say, I don't need this ministry anymore. Yes. These are not mandatory offices that enshrine the Constitution. You know, the officers that enshrine the Constitution are very clear. The defense office, the defense office, the finance office. That's why, in terms of appointment, these are the first appointment I made when you take up government. So it's the wish of the president based on 61.
You see?
What is it? Go on.
We are not shouting.
For now, as you said, any comment you talk. If you don't have chief minister, you can ask to review the act. So let's leave it like that for the sake of having it as an office, because all of our offices are represented. So if you're taking that into consideration, some of these officers are not very president because they are not mandatory for the most. Thank you.
Yes. Are we all together?
Yes.
So let's move. Page 6.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
You want to take us back?
Yeah, well, on same page 5. We have the composition of the board, but I have a kind of suggestion that I would like to make. The composition comprises of high-ranking government officials, and I'm of the view that scheduling them will be difficult. So I don't know whether we'll find another way of, introducing other players that you can easily get.
Say the same thing as we passed.
Then secondly, Mr. Chairman, a different version, honorable. Secondly, we have a very nice definition for civil society.
Taking us back to
no, I said we have read a very nice definition.
So you decide for something
but considering the composition of this board, I am of the view that we have limited representation, and there is a need for us to incorporate into this board maybe other local partners with a view of having early warning imputed as early as possible.
I'm not sure.
That's my view.
Governance is a process. It's a process that is hierarchical.
The president
we cannot destroy the hierarchy of governance.
He's thinking about Yenga.
Mr. Chairman.
Are we compatible with the 14 members?
I think the number is what we should have 14. Governance is hierarchical. Things have to flow from top to bottom. So if you mix everybody into the composition, then who gives instruction to who?
Are we comfortable with the 14?
14 is even. I'm not sure we're comfortable with it. Can we add?
No.
I think
It's fine.
14 is the number 14 is the executive director.
Including without the executive director, including the chairman, is 14. And remember,
The executive director has no voting rights.
yes.
So in an instance where there is a tie,
So the chairman votes where there is a tie. Only the executive secretary cannot vote.
No.
That's why.
So that makes it 13.
It's
14
14.
is 13.
It's fine.
No, it's 14.
It should be.
It's 14. Because the chairman, if there is tie, but if you have 13 members now, there will never be a tie.
There will never be.
So I think it's fine. Because the executive director is secretary to the board.
Yes.
So that is 13. The chairman can only vote when there is tie, and there will never be a tie.
No, so then it remains 12, Mr. Chair. No, we still will have 12.
The executive director cannot vote.
Cannot vote, yeah.
So that leaves in 12.
And 12 is an even number. So the chairman will never vote where there will be no tie because they are 13. So the law says where there is a tie, the chairman can vote.
So
and with 13 members, there will be no tie.
Yes.
They should have even numbers, odd numbers.
They have odd numbers because the executive director.
Either we add one or we remove one. Look at it carefully.
The Ministry of Youth Affairs.
Can we expunge? The leader is responsible for government business.
Yes.
We would have to introduce something.
For me, if we have either we have the Ministry of Youth or local government, we decide.
No, I go for youth leader.
Youth, okay.
There's final difference.
Why not gender?
No.
Why not the Ministry of Gender, Mr. Leader?
Because it's not too gender sensitive.
It is.
It's not.
Security issues.
Mr. Leader, remember
who dictates security issues in your home?
The kids and the women are plenty in our environment.
The youth are very victims.
I don't understand where does gender come in.
Who dictates security issues at home? Mr. Chair.
All these representatives are not designated by gender.
No.
For example, the Prime Minister of Economic and Development Planning.
Madam President, let's put it to.
Of course.
The executive director is a female.
So, Madam
there might come a time when they are not.
To be very serious.
It's not sacrosanct that they will remain female.
It is also not sacrosanct that the Minister of Finance will remain male.
So in the absence of all the unforeseeable circumstances, we can have a gender because there cannot be any dictator of how the one is signed better than there cannot be a better person than a female.
We have a male minister in this country, a minister for gender,
very well,
social
Mr.
welfare
Chair.
and children's affairs, male.
Very well, Mr. Chair, but I can assure you.
What is gender?
I can assure you, it's men and female. So let's have the Ministry of Gender be included in it because we are talking about men and female.
So the other ministers in there, they are also male and female.
But let's be deliberate and specific.
I'm not sure we have to be deliberate in making law.
Mr. Chairman, the Minister of Planning.
We have to act consensuously.
The Minister of Planning is a female.
Mr. Chairman.
I think the argument for gender
Mr. Chairman.
does not hold water.
Madam President. Madam President. Which one are we going to
when we have
we want to add one more.
And when you say you also to add to what you
so let's have a Minister of
So we are going to add
They might be all asleep. The youth might be asleep. Mr. Leader, the youth might be asleep while the women are awake. When they will take push,
every part of your being, even the word itself is referring to us. It says we the men.
No, it's a we are not specific.
The gender is not specific.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we add youth.
Okay, leader.
I saw second.
Okay.
All in favor of the addition, say aye. Those against say nay.
Nay.
say no.
One vote.
Mr. Chair, please.
Chair, we should have voted.
Mr. Chairman, still on page 5, the bottom will be the executive director who shall serve as secretary to the board, and we have to qualify with no voting rights.
Yes, I agree.
We need to qualify it. That's if we need to vote for.
With no voting rights.
Then the number becomes
Distinction there between director and executive director. Executive director wields not just administrative powers, but also governance powers. That's the distinction.
I agree.
So he has to be part of the governance structure. And so to say he doesn't have, unless we want to remove him from the board, but he will still retain his.
Well, even the Bible does not recognize this thing that you're saying. Everything is masculine. We have to accept the reality that there is no way, unlike laws, the Bible we cannot review it.
We know.
The Quran we cannot review it.
We know.
These things, they are masculine. So that is why you should always accept when we try to incorporate everything into what they are supposed to be.
No way.
Yes, so what I'm saying, we should revisit that distinction. Because if you say executive director, he actually has governance powers. Unlike other ordinary directors who just concentrate on management. So we have to bear this in mind. So either we remove him from the board and confine him to his governance and administrative powers, but if he has to be a member of the board, then he has to have voting rights.
No, Mr. Chairman, for best practice. For best practice, and we passing laws here, and the executive secretary is always the secretary to the board without no voting right. We cannot start it now when we've already have many laws that we've enacted in this parliament. No way. Consistency has to stand the test of time.
His argument is the word executive.
You see, Mr. Chairman, there's no guarantee. No guarantee that all of the laws we passed in this country are perfect. I don't take that.
No, it's perfect.
Yes, I don't think that. So it doesn't mean we cannot visit. A bad practice does not coagulate into a second.
And it was this parliament that started visiting provisions with regards tenure to offices. Let's not forget that was a landmark ruling made by the speaker.
Yeah.
So I see there is no bar to what we can do in terms of correcting wrongs if they were wrong.
But they are not wrong here.
So if he can argue, for me, I believe what he has said. It's an executive director, and the executive director, by administrative procedure, is part of the running of the organization. So you cannot take the executive director to a board meeting and confine the executive director to just being a secretary. Because the decisions you are making affect the responsibilities that he managed on a day-to-day basis.
She managed.
Even the Constitution does not recognize this she.
Mr. Chairman, I'm speaking from the unique advantageous position that I've been Director General. So I'm speaking,
I'm but that's the truth. But that's the truth. The truth is, the laws are not like that.
Mr. Chairman, I know he's raising issues it has to do.
And you are constrained to argue in this particular.
No, I'm not constrained. The first point of argument. So we have them in the original position. I check also. So they are always in that. So what they have done in this case is provided the executive to a section position. So a section position because of the conformity of the particular law. Yes, it functions now. Where you don't so the function of the executive is expressly stated in the law. That's why they are very clever. Don't go to clause 13. You will see that mistake. So I think if you don't know what that means, it's because of the regional composition. That's what they are doing. So they expressly stated about the function of the executive director can be in clause 13. So we continue.
Page 6.
Chairman, please.
Page 6.
Chairman.
Yeah, we have an issue with clause 4.
Yes, Chairman.
In my opinion, the provisions of clause 4 cannot be termed as tenure. I don't think it is in place. Beside those is tenure.
Honorable Jalo, Honorable Bayi, and who else? They are recognized.
I'm SMB from Canada.
They are recognized. I'm just recognizing.
No, that is yes, sir. Plus 4, tenure of members. It's a person shall cease to be a member of the board. If I really
They
don't
no longer hold the office for which he was
it should be
appointed.
placed somewhere else. There's a provision under circumstances under which one loses to be a member of the board.
When you are retired.
I think this one.
Honorable Amidu Ola.
No, you cannot be retired. If you are sacked as a minister, you are not a member of the board.
When you are sacked.
Where are you? Honorable Amidu Ola.
I'll tell you, a minister, they retire. I'll sack nobody.
Are you there? That's your seat.
Yeah.
He's taking advantage.
Yeah. Every minister, yeah. When they're done, they get a full package.
Yes, he's taking advantage.
Usually the laws we make.
Grand district.
Laws that make provision for board membership. Usually there's provision as the circumstances under which one ceases to be member of the board. This one can suitably go there if there's provision for how a member loses his membership of the board. But this one as it is, as the revision states, cannot be described as tenure.
I agree with you.
Cannot be described as tenure.
Yes, there are two sides we can look at this from. First of all, it's good in this way because they're referring us to section 3. So, for example, if you are a minister of a certain institution and you are no longer minister of that institution by virtue of section 3, then that ends your tenure. But then again, because as an individual, the institution will continue, but you as an individual, because here we're talking about the ministry. So the new minister will be the member.
That is very obvious. That is very obvious. We are saying as a house of records, the side note cannot be tenure, and then we accept this tradition against that side note, tenure. I agree of the idea. The idea, Minister of Finance, in fact, usually we even your definition that ministry shall be construed accordingly. It's in line with what they are saying. For ministry to be construed accordingly, the ministry has perpetual succession. Unlike the individual minister. Ministers can come and go. So when you say minister means minister responsible for planning and economic development and ministry shall be construed accordingly, it's making that point to what we are making now. That the individual might go, but whosoever comes in is the minister, including the ministry. You know, but you cannot state side note as tenure, and then you accept this revision as a way of losing your membership.
This is just one of those unique situations wherein all the members here are statutory board members, and normally under tenure we always have something different which talks about the 3 years, and of course liable.
Yeah, which is not to me tenure is we don't even need tenure for this one.
So we have to. So now we have to agree on the side note for this, which is not going to be tenure. But we need this particular clause, except we think that it's implied. Then we have to remove it totally.
Why not?
So no, I think we can agree either we remove tenure or the entire clause because it's
implied.
It's implied. So that's the decision we have in front of us, Mr. Chairman.
The consensus is to expunge because it does not serve the purpose for which it is included. Because, like the Honorable Daniel said, already we have defined minister and ministry accordingly. So once you lose office or you lost your office, then you are automatically out of the structure. Chairman. Honorable Chasaplai, you want to answer? You are trying to answer my attention.
Yes, Chairman. Page 5.
Section 3, the legislative chairman.
You're taking us back?
Yeah, just, a kind of omission here. But the legislative committee chairman read it correctly, but on the paper or whatever written there, there is an omission, section 3, where
which aspect? MAP.
Section 3, the governing body of the
OD.
Yeah.
Yes.
You read it correctly, but there's an omission.
Yes, you're right. D is added. Page 7.
Yes, no, Mr. Chairman, please. I was.
Sorry,
Page 6 plus 5. Such an important organization. I think the meeting of boards only twice a year is such a very long period. So I want to think that we consider that
every 6.
No, at least twice a year.
Mr. Chair, there is a provision.
They are liberty to go up to 12.
Okay.
Yes.
Depending on the situation and the circumstance.
And
Mr. So I think he qualifies, okay.
Yeah, and also there is a provision that says if there is a need for a board to meet, 5 members have to sign and make a request, and that can be granted. So I think that they can use that provision.
That is an omnibus provision.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. It's just a question of 5-5. Sorry, sir. 5-5. Are we comfortable with quorum 5? If we are comfortable, we'll proceed. But I don't know if we are comfortable with 5.
Or 15?
Out of 15.
No, I think 5 is too small. What is the threshold? Is it 1/3 or 2/3?
Well, usually.
It's 1/3,
I think.
It's 1/3. Because there's 1/4 of members of parliament that can summon parliament, right?
Mr. Chairman, I just want for every office established, there must be a bonus. I know we are talking about statutory law. I know they have in the substantive act, give them the power to be appointed. They have termination clauses. For example, how you are fired as a minister of planning, economic development, minister of finance. They are not saying they are saying if you are reading the act, you are reading the act in isolation. You don't know much about surrounding. You want to read the early warning act. You now come to the establishment of the board. Someone would like to ask, what would be the effect of the board if somebody is terminated? How do you read this? This board cannot go any better. Unknowing, so if they marry it, you just want to know what is happening in terms of how they want to respond. There must be a clause how you notify somebody reading that this board is not like end of life board. Because there will be a time when you see this to be a board member. So we need to indicate something. We should not delete it completely. We must indicate something that your time as a board member comes to an end based on static conditions. I think we need to have that one. We can proceed and come there.
That's the decision of membership.
Yes, exactly.
I think the issue with cessation of membership will only affect one person, the executive director in this bill directly. For the others, it is implied in the constitution. The minute you are terminated by the president, a new person comes in because the early warning is the intent of the early warning mechanism structure is to continue infinitum. So what happens to whosoever is appointed by the president, his tenure ends with the termination by the president himself. So, but for the executive director, I agree because that is an appointed position. And even with that, like you said, it's the same because when once the president terminates, you have done another person comes in. So I don't know, but I don't see reasons for cessation.
Mr.
Chairman. Because it's taken care of already.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think in addition to what the leader was saying, every bill we have passed here has tenure for board. That's one. I'm not sure this should be an exemption. But there's another matter, Mr. Speaker, I want to raise. That is the quorum. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to ask the minister why they said 5. Because I think these are very important. It has to do with our security. What if something happened that the board need to meet urgently and you don't have 7 members?
We circulate.
But that's what 5 is that they are not saying we should
circulate.
So I would suggest that we leave the quorum to 5 instead of 7 or 2/3.
5 is 1/3.
That's what I'm saying.
It's now small in America. It's 1/3.
Yeah, I agree. What I'm saying.
Sticking with 1/3 then.
Yeah, I think let's stick with 1/3.
Madam Minister.
The quorum in order.
You want to say something?
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
Chairman, I think we agree that 1/3 is 5.
1/3 is 5.
Yes.
So 1/3 is 5.
Mr. Chairman, I still want to draw attention.
Okay. So how big as it is 5?
Yeah. So it really cannot be 10. But I still draw your attention. How do we look at reading it like trying to look at what the laws is running? I'm talking about how to respond to alleged issues. Let me look at the laws. And you reach there reading about the board composition. But we know very sure that the determination of the executive director is supposed to be board composition. We are saying that to the board. But there must be a way of seeing. You see, this to be a member of the board. Blah, 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 blah. So that is what I'm saying. But don't forget that we have to read this in tandem with the other laws we already have. Nigeria, Ghana, Gambia, etc. So I don't know if you want to help me.
Mr. Chairman, I think there will be no issue. There will be no issue if we can go to a particular bill that makes provision for cessation of membership, conditions under which a member ceases to become
inability to perform.
Yeah, if he resigns, if he dies, if he is convicted of fraud, dishonesty, there will be no issue, Mr. Chairman. To me, it will not be. There's no difference. Well, let us put it. If that's what he's saying, let us import it.
Let us import that one.
If he's convicted of an offense involving fraud or dishonesty, those things, we can import it.
How can a minister cease how can a minister commit fraud
the provisions of the Constitution?
And the president don't start?
Like I said, once you are appointed minister, you are the beck and call of the president. Yeah. The president can decide one morning that today it pleases me also to relieve you from duty. That's the end, because these are the same conditions provided therein. For your inability to perform, that is why the president will leave you. For misconduct, that is why the president will leave you. For failure to attend cabinet meeting, that is why the president will leave you. So if we put it here for statutory boards, then we will be repeating the Constitution.
Yes.
I believe we should leave it as this. Because already that is taken care of.
Mr. Chairman, I think I agree with you.
It's taken care of.
Because if you are chairman of Transport Committee today or 2025, if you don't come to Parliament next year, you are no longer chairman.
So if the chairman of Transport, is he coming to Parliament anyway?
So no, I was just trying to support your point and make.
No, I'm just trying to ask also.
Because when you are not a minister no more, you cannot be a member of the board.
So should we really be the chairman of Transport?
No, that's going to the
board. We'll consider it.
You are not paying attention.
Certainly.
No, you cannot pay attention because the CEO is here.
No, I was trying to see how much you can have a side note for.
Not in the plenary.
Yeah, the chairman cannot go. And you can bring it to speed.
He was citing an example that if the chairman for Transport Committee is not coming to Parliament regularly, he will be relieved from his position as chairman.
I say in case you don't come back in the next season. And that's the case for ministers. When you are sacked today, you cannot expect you to be a chairman of the or member of that board. So we don't need to repeat ourselves.
Bankruptcy cannot stop a minister from performing his function.
No.
I don't have money, but that
Mr. Chairman.
You cannot include that. Bank is not stopping from performing the function.
Mr. Chairman.
It was not appointed on the pretext that it is. Yes, sir. Yeah.
I know we have been doing conformities and enactment. So this is no, not me. Mr. Chairman, National Disaster Management. The National Disaster Management Act 2020. Side note, again, the same plus 4 we have in section 4 here. Side note, don't be given to me by any. I asked them to do some research for me so that we can have some comparison. Tenure of members. So the same here, the same statutory board. Let me just read some of them. The Director General, National Mineral Agency, the Secretary General, Sierra Leone, the Financial Secretary, the Executive Director, the Disaster Director General, Sierra Leone Civil Aviation Authority, Director General, Ministry of Defense, Director General of the agency, who shall be the secretary. So it's like the same. So we have the same statutory composition, and they now have, we enacted tenure of the members. A member shall cease to be, a person shall cease to be a member of the national platform on any of the following grounds. A, he said, if he is removed from office. And B, for his inability to perform the functions of his office by reason of infirmity of mind or body, which he initially stated. For proven misconduct, if becomes bankrupt or insolvent, if he is convicted and sentenced for an office involved in fraud or dishonesty, if he fails to attend 3 consecutive meetings of the board without reasonable excuse, and if he resigns his office. I think I was saying that we should want something like that. For example, not coming to meeting 3 times. It's very sensitive. We are talking about punctuality of the board. So that honorable director might raise it in his debate. That's why I'll be very puzzled in looking at it one step after the other. So what we can see for conformity of the law and neatness of proceedings and consistency. Mr. Chairman, can we report this one? Can we report this one? It's very clear to us. Yes.
Is this the consensus of the House? Because
yes.
I feel a little different.
Mr. Chairman.
Because the minister serves at the prerogative of the president. The minister can be bankrupt, and the president chose not to bring in minister for education.
Mr. Chairman, I know what you are saying. You are looking at the duplicity of the law. No, it's not. I'm not talking about, for example, you fail to attend 3 consecutive meetings. That's not going to be determined for you to be. They can ask you to move out of the board if you're not going. You cannot write. They cannot write to the secretary, to the president that this is what is happening. The president cannot remove you, and they can take some actions. That can precipitate them to take actions. So does it cause any harm for us to just have it, to import it from that clause in that position?
Is that the process of
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, I want to borrow the words of some of the words of the leader of government business. This is a body where the vice president sits as the chairman, and earlier on we are trying to put that the other following members, their representatives not below. So automatically we discarded that idea of having that particular line because it's already implied at that particular level. So again, this can be administrative in that particular board where you have the vice president 3 times you're not there, you understand. We don't even need to even restate it here. It can be administrative. And now, what about the board finds the minister not capable, bankrupt, or not in a sound body, but the president who appointed the minister thinks is fit enough to still be a minister? So, in this situation, we're talking about, I even think
tenure might even go, in as much as it was there under National Disaster Management Agency. Yes, maybe at that point in time it was right, but then a person shall cease. Again, we're talking about cessation here. So we're talking about the individual, the institution stays. So I think that aspect of being absent 3 times, stating it here and as it was there, it might be a consensus to some point, but again, it will question whether it was even right to be there in the first place when we did it in 2020. Absolutely. But then I think it should stay as it is.
Yes, sir. I see there were no statutory. Mr. Chairman, I cannot accept the chairman trying to audit the minutes of the House. No, no account, I will not accept. I will not also do anything. I will not change. It's a law. That's why it's not for amendment. There is no perfect law. Yeah. But what you did was see the full view of the law, the full force of the law. I agree with you. Fine. I agree with you. I agree with you. So I want that record. I want to be exposed from the record. I export that from the record. Why I agree with the leader? I also agree with the chairman of the legislative committee that now that we are making progress, things have changed. Let us also inculcate new practices and take away those into non-AI practices that were present at the time when we passed the National Disaster Management Act.
Mr. Chairman, I think this particular yes, if we say we are going to deal with the removal of commissions that will guide the removal procedure of a membership with this particular board, it's a bit the leader has read the previous bills that were enacted and the conditions on that. I think if you look at the first one he read, that when a member is relieved, I think that's enough. When you are relieved, everything is encompasses a misconduct, whatever conditions, it falls under that. Because you are relieved from duty means somebody else comes to replace. And we are talking about statutory representation. If the Minister of Finance, for example, is removed, the new minister coming in takes over. The Minister of Environment or Minister of Development is removed, the new minister coming in takes over. So when he or she is relieved by the president, automatically the president ceases to become a member of that board. I think we can pay into that. And secondly, if we want to add, we can say when he is relieved or when he or she resigns. If we want to add anything to that under some condition, because and again, you cannot resign from the board because you are a minister of finance, meaning they say the minister of finance is a member of the board. So you cannot resign. Yes. Well, you cannot resign. If you resign from the board, automatically, because you are not the individual represented on the board. It's the position. So you cannot. Wait. Let me laugh. You resign from the board. Automatically implies you are resigning your position as a minister. No. Let's have it. Then let's clarify it here, Mr. Chairman.
You should resign your position as minister.
Whoever comes in,
fine.
So if we say the minister,
I see your submission as
it's the position, not the individual.
No, it's not taking us back, Mr. Chairman. I'm not saying because all of us, if we say when the person is relieved, when you are relieved by the president, and you are not a member of the board anymore.
The president relieve you from duty.
Fine, you are a member.
You are no longer a member.
So all other conditions.
So we did not be able to.
Exactly.
Let's just leave it.
So, Mr. Chairman, we can do one thing to change tenure of members to cessation of membership.
We are not going to change. Tenure cannot work.
Yes, because it says here a person shall cease. So we are talking about cessation here. So it's cessation of membership. I think
so instead of expunging the entirety of clause 4, we change the side notes from tenure to cessation.
Very well.
And it takes care of everything.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you may rule on that for statutory board composition. I think that is a comforting text for us to use subsequent legislation.
I agree 100%. I think we should adopt this when once the composition of the board is statutory. It becomes cessation and you use this one line. So page 6.
So page 6, 5.4, maybe just the addition of one word. The chairman, or in his absence, the vice chairman, or I think we need the definite article there, or the member appointed to act.
No, it's supposed to be definite one.
Or what?
Or A.
Okay, fine. But at least we need to add a. We need to add a member.
Okay, page 7. Page 8. This is how I want to. Page 9.
Page 9.
Can I bring you back?
Who wants to?
It was just to draw attention. There was this 761. Yeah, no. Yes, 771.
Yeah, it's 7 state.
Yeah. This is just that the difficult word of good faith existing there. And I was wondering how that now built up.
It is for the court to determine what good faith is. It can be here, but we cannot define it. That is the prerogative of the court. That is why it is out here now than being defined in the interpretation section. Because now the court can determine what good faith is.
Even though it is there.
If you had defined good faith, then you would have limited the powers of the court to determine what good faith is in this particular provision. Now the court can make that determination. So page 9.
Page 9. Let's look at clause 9.2d. Yes, if you look at 2, it says, without prejudice to the generality of subsection 1, the board shall be responsible to. If you look at A, it works to ensure, to oversee, to provide, but it doesn't write to upon receipt. So, against that backdrop, we use to ensure, the new rendition, we turn it the other way around, to ensure any response or actions are instigated by the responsible authorities upon receipt of reports from the center. So we turn it the other way around. Upon receipt of the reports from the center.
Can you read that? The rendition.
The rendition now will start from the second line. Remember, we are starting from 2.
To ensure.
Yes, to ensure early response or actions are instigated by the responsible authorities now upon receipt of reports from the state.
Do we have any? I think it's words. Page 10. Page 9. All I will now.
Page 9. Okay. I wait for it. Yes.
Page 9 clause 10. Clause 10. Don't we have a rendition?
Yes, I was going to raise that now.
So we take the rendition as we have adopted.
Yes. For the enumeration of the salaries.
Yes.
To avoid
double.
We have the system.
Yes. Of course. Even before that, the chairman, by deleting the word, the chairman and the other members. So to delete the word B, I don't know how it sounds to you, but the chair should be the chairman and other members.
You have the rendition.
You have the rendition.
Yes, we have that whole rendition that yes, we can import that as
chairman.
Because it has to do with remuneration, they are only eligible to sit in fees. So we have that whole rendition that we are going to import, which is not important. Class will use that.
I think this should stay.
Which one should stay?
The chairman and the other members. This should stay.
And then
we take our rendition.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
I
know we are running.
Don't worry.
Yes,
I'm only not like to speak.
No, okay. So like you said, you want us to do properly. I just need clarification from you, sir. I'm taking you back to 7, sir. Just a clarification, sir.
7.
Yes, sir. Clarification, sir. Please. It makes sense.
Okay.
Fine. plus 6.2. Okay, the side note, disclosure of interest. 6.2 now reads, I'm just going to the penalty. A member of the board who contravenes subsection 1 shall be guilty of misconduct and be removed from the board. So, the clarification I want here, sir, if the minister contravenes this, and by law, he should be removed from the board, and the minister should represent, is a member of the board, and now the minister will be removed by misconduct, by not declaring his or her interest in a particular matter. What's the problem? I don't have a problem. It's a concern, sir.
I think. Let me state this. Let's not forget that the vice president is the principal assistant to the president. So if the vice president is the principal assistant to the president.
Yes.
So if for any reason a minister fails to do something in a body set up by cabinet, I think in their tete-a-tete you will make recommendation. Or the recommendation of
the vice president
of their meeting will be forwarded to the president anyhow, and action will be taken. So I don't see anything wrong with the decision. I know you want to tie it to discussion on cessation of membership.
Mr. Chairman, you are very active in this debate, sir.
No, I'm not. I'm directing the debate.
So no wait, but my concern, the good thing about my concern, they have been answered by the chairman directly. The minister is comfortable with it. So my concern have been answered by the chairman.
So now that I've answered your question, on page 10.
No, I'm not satisfied. Let's go. You are not satisfied? No, I'm not.
Still on page 10, Mr. Chairman. Page 10, let's look at 12.2. The leader of the opposition earlier on raised a point about the submission of reports not to be optional but even mandatory. Thinking of suggesting to have your attention, Mr. Chairman. Okay, let me rescue you. It was lost, but now you're found. Looking at 12.2, Mr. Chairman, the issue of a report produced under subsection 1 may be submitted to the President. During the debate, the leader of the opposition emphasized that a report to the President must not be optional, mandatory. So that's the first change we're going to make. But then let's look at it further. Submitted to the President, the Vice President, Chairman. Something is not right. The Vice President is also the Chairman. So I want to suggest a new rendition of this one. That a report produced under subsection 1 shall be submitted to the President, the Chairman of the Board, and other relevant ministries, departments, and agencies. Because we can't have there the Vice President and the Chairman because we're talking about the same person. The aspect of Parliament will appear on the annual reports.
The problem would arise in the instance you mentioned Parliament when the Vice President is the Chairman of the Board.
No, in fact,
or the Minister will table
there is provision for that later.
Yes,
in fact, they were really forgotten, but we added them. We added those new.
I think most often the provision for tabling the report of the committee. Most times it comes under financial provision.
Let's just wait for it to understand. We'll get there.
It should come under financial provision, under the annual report.
Yes, provision is made for that, Mr. Chairman. When we get there, I'll rise again. And then...
So, honorable member, please hold on. Let me take a moment to recognize Dr. Mohamed Ahmad, Sheikh Swahilo Sise, Mr. Mohamed Charles Kaloko. These are philanthropists that are helping our people in the Western area. You're welcome to Parliament.
Ban them.
Well, it means you may not be providing complete oversight in the jurisdiction. It's just an aside, don't worry.
Let's proceed. Rendition.
I read out a rendition earlier on justice.
That's fine. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay, thank you very much.
The rendition is taken. Clerks, have you taken note of the rendition by the chairman? Okay. Yes. For 12-2.
Mr. Chairman.
So page 11.
Mr. Chairman, on 10.
You're on 10, yes.
Yes. 10 E.
Which 10A?
A, collect, centralize, and analyze data.
I don't understand.
Oh, 10A.
Clause what? Is it clause or page?
Page 10.
Page 10.
Yes.
Clause 11A.
Yes.
11A. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, collect, centralize, and analyze data or information. This implies the use of information systems and data platforms. But what has not been explicitly mentioned is the kind of modern tools we intend to use to collect these data that will be credible.
That cannot be in legislation. That will be provided for in the regulation. That cannot be in legislation. The legislation is telling us. So what the regulation does is to expand on the provisions of the legislation so as to give additional power and additional force to the existing primary legislation. So let's go to 11.
Page 11.
Yes, sir.
When we look at 13.2, but first of all, top of page 11, there was 12.3. Well, I don't know later whether that clarification was already given. Okay, that's fine. With 13.2b, we just need to add after relevant fields from an accredited institution. We have to qualify it further.
I don't understand where.
13.2b.
Hold a master's degree
in human security related to relevant fields from an accredited institution.
Are you saying our people are not accredited?
No, well, we're not talking about the people, we're just talking about the institution. And there are so many institutions, experience has taught us that some of them are not accredited, but we just want to limit ourselves here to the accredited institution.
But they are not. So if you know for any reason you've gone to under the tree, please go and invoke it.
We are going to cut the tree. Again, under 13.2e, I think we have to agree because there was a suggestion there. I leave that to the leader of the opposition with regards to experience. I was thinking of 10.
Is it 13.2e?
Yeah, 13.2e.
I think 5 is okay. 5. You said 5. I think 5 is okay. Why do we need 4?
No, Mr. Chairman, we're talking about the head. At least let's take it to 10 years.
No. I think 5 is okay. No, listen. For me, let's say something. If a member of parliament serves the House for 5 years, a member of parliament is qualified enough to assume any position in this country. So I don't see why we should raise the bar above certain heights, because the intent is we need to protect the nation's most pride assets. These are young people. We have to give them access to leadership. So I think 15 is too much, 5 is okay. 10 is too high.
So we're talking about, so it should read, has 5 years professional work experience, of which he has at least held.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we have to be careful with having the provisions, because there are certain provisions also, you have to deal with some serious analysis and some institutional experience. So when it comes to areas like this nature, where you have the vice president as the chairman, and you have statutory board members, the person occupying that position must be appointed by the president anyway. So there is no any competition about it. So just to guide that that person going in there is that experience for that person and they are served in a serious capacity under a managerial level. And so if you look at it carefully, yes, of course, I also founded at the 15 years professional year work experience, of which he has at least 5 years in managerial position. So for me, we should bring down the one from 15 to 10 and bring down the 5 to something down to 3. Recognized institution, because when you are analyzing, if you have looked at when you analyze, we are talking about emerging issues, talking about human security and peace, we're talking about diverse areas. So you really have to have that spread of knowledge in handling situations coming to you. Just like when we normally have the natural disaster coming in, when you set up institutions, try to bring them together and form subcommittees. You have to really have the expertise how to calculate the. That's why we had the problem with Ebola. How to collate the whole functioning of different centers to have a report to generate. We have to take the Minister of Finance, take other people from different places to go and set up that particular department so that we can have efficient center to run the day-to-day running of the Ebola, and we will continue that one for the Corona. So I'm saying we bring that one to 10 and reduce the 15 to maybe 5 to 3. Just to qualify and have a better representation, thinking about the nature of this particular department or center.
Mr. Chairman, following off of where the leader left, maybe we can merge the years. We can still leave it at 10, but then to sound like this, has at least 10 years professional work experience and has held a managerial position in a recognized institution. So we don't want to start talking about the 10 years work experience, then later on we come to the managerial experience. But if you've spent 10 years, you have 10 years work experience, then at least held a managerial position in an institution.
I think, don't worry, I think that one is okay. I've not enacted any law that we are talking about special qualification. Yeah, managerial. No, yeah. Let's move it. No, yeah. I've not seen that one. Let's leave it at 10.
Can we settle at the midpoint? Can we settle
at
10?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
That is too much.
Mr. Chairman.
Because if you look now,
Mr. Chairman, let me debate you now.
No, I'm just trying to go.
Let me make a presentation before you bring us. Don't influence us, leave us like this. Mr. Chairman, it's a spirit I'm following.
Are you threatening Mr. Speaker?
May Lord forbid. Mr. Speaker. It is a spirit of that clause I'm following. That they really have to have really strong person with different experience. So they even place a figure on a managerial experience, which I've never done. So what she has said now is a compromise point. We remove at this experience managerial level, no year. You can either have 6 months or have in the position, maybe 1 month, you have an experience. That experience can take you, inclusive of the 10 years. So in 10 years can give you overall experience, professional and both managerial.
So this one is critical. Can you move so that we adopt it?
I move that we have 10 years professional work experience. Instead, and remove 5.
With no figure for managerial.
Okay, let me read the appropriate one. Okay, they have already done it here. Be amended to read as have at least 10 years professional work experience and has held a managerial position in a recognized institution.
Any seconder to that motion?
I so second, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say nay.
Still on page 11, Mr. Chairman.
No, it's okay. It's your prerogative. Are we still on page 11, page 12?
Not page 11. I was just trying to welcome catastrophe back to the world.
It was mentioned while he was away. Catastrophe are recognized.
Clause 14, Roman figure 3, I think we just have to do some spacing between strengthening and interagency. So
okay. That is clerical. Page 12.
No, also.
Yes.
Sorry, sir. Plus 14.
Hold on.
Plus 14, 1A1. The last line. The first word, IT.
Yeah.
I think it will be ITS.
Yeah, it's false.
You add S.
The day-to-day administration and management of the affairs of the center, its funds and property. Yeah. Page 12.
Page 12, Mr. Chairman. Top of the page, we look at 14.1b. You remember at some point where we added that the executive director shall serve as board secretary with no voting right.
Yeah.
It's a repetition of this one here. So I want to suggest a new rendition. The fact that we've added the service as secretary to the board earlier on, for this now to read, just coordinate secretariat services for the effective functioning of the board. The aspect of serving as secretary to the board has already been added earlier on.
Do we need to restate it? Can we just expunge it?
So that's why we are going to expunge that aspect here.
But if you serve as secretary to the board, then you're doing secretarial studies. It's like you say minister and you say it's construed, ministry is construed accordingly.
Well,
so once you are secretary, what you do is secretarial activities.
Okay, so but here there are other secretarial activities apart from being the secretary.
No, the secretarial activity is not only limited to taking minutes. It also includes preparing board packs, sending board packs, monitoring meeting times, meeting dates, meeting schedule. That is the whole secretarial activities. That is why you are secretary.
Well, in this case, I'm partially correct because I was asking for some kind of minimal deletion, but now we can do the entire deletion.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, it's up to
before you go to deletion, can you take us back to where you said just secretary to the board?
Yeah, it's 3.
It's 3. Let's look at the deletion. So
that's page 5 of the bill, where we said the executive director who shall serve as secretary to the board with no voting rights, where we qualified it with no voting rights. So it's a repetition of it. Serve as secretary to the board. That was why earlier on I was suggesting that we remove
plus 3, right?
The serve, yes, remove the serve as secretary to the board. I was explaining that we leave the coordinating secretary.
Hold on, you're going to plus 3, you sure?
What's going to be PRC?
I
3 what? 3N.
That's 3N.
So we come now and yes.
That's under the command of General Ojukwu.
Mr. Chairman, I think what we can do is just add some these adjectives for the text we have here. So the secretary to the board and coordinate secretarial services for the effective functioning of the board. So we bring that one to N.
I think it should be duplication.
No, just add it to N.
To N, that is it. Well, once you say secretary, it encompasses secretarial duties. And secretarial duties is not limited to only taking down minutes. It involves preparing board packs, circulating board packs, involving board members.
The Chairman, I beg you, it's good for us to put it down. If you talk about the secretary, it depends on which board they are serving. The composition of the secretary, because when you talk about the secretariat, that encompasses so many things are in the secretariat. But when you are talking about secretary, it's just to enforce that there are certain things that you need to do so that you can enhance the real operational angle of the board. But for me, I think it causes any harm to enforce the activities of the secretariat or the secretary to the board. Because anyhow, in the spirit, you are thinking that secretary, that is what that individual is supposed to do. But we are not saying because of really wants to be really operational. Some of them clauses, when you state them, it's very clear for us to the secretary that is going to serve to the board. It gives that individual the tenacity to go as far as she could to serve that board.
Or you are referring to specific person now?
Mr. Chairman.
You're not referring to the law.
Mr. Chairman.
I will just explain.
Mr. Chairman, in fact, following that line of thinking, that was why I said the top of the paragraph serve as secretary to the board, which we've already stated in clause 3N.
Okay.
So the rest of the other wording stays the coordination of secretarial activities for the effective functioning of the board.
Okay, so be it.
So
we
don't take.
I see you have a strong opinion.
Yes, I still come back to this business of.
Our flag bearer recognize her.
Yeah. Next president of the republic.
You should try as much as possible to attract his attention. You don't know.
Yes,
when he becomes president.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, we are establishing a statutory corporation, and it is normal in these circumstances to have a legal officer appointed to serve as but the corporate secretary. And actually, the function of that corporate secretary normally is to take minutes. The reason being, the executive director of the board decision making, although he has no voting right, but he is participating in the deliberations of the board. Now, if at the same time he has to take minutes, can you imagine how laborious that can be? Which is why most of these statutes, they provide for a corporate secretary, usually a legal officer. He serves as a secretary to the board. And then that frees the executive director to participate effectively in the deliberations of the board. I mean, considering that it's a statutory company.
I take your point slowly. We have a divergent opinion. I take the point, and maybe for the smooth running of the agency or the authority, whatever we choose to call it, I think we will leave that to be constituted under other staff. So the executive director can now take due action when it comes to the constitution of other staff.
I think Mr. Chairman, this ruling is fantastic. If you go below the office of the Director General, as a director, you can see that the individual has the right to employ other staff. So what he has said, you can just look at those criteria that he has stated, because he explained why do you need to have secretary to the board. Yeah, that can be incorporated under by as he said, recruitment, through recruitment. You can also do that one. There's a point noted, but the individual acting as executive director must take this one into consideration.
Yeah. So I will carry your concern is announced. Page 13. Yes. Or 12.
Still in 12. Maybe it's the same point on recruitment.
Yeah, 15.
Because you raised the point about appointment. So
plus 15.1. Yes.
We replace appoint to recruit.
To recruit, yeah, with recruit.
We replace appoint with recruit. To read as follows.
Yeah.
The executive director shall, on such terms and conditions as the board may determine, recruit other employees required for the efficient discharge of the functions of the center under this act. Group appointment.
Very correct. Any other amendment? Do we have any other amendments on page 12? Page 13?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Earlier on, I made a submission in my debate regarding page 13 plus 19, 1B. If we start from up, the activities of the center shall be financed by funds consisting of B, loans. That is my concern, because if you go to C, you have donations, grants, gifts, and other monies and assets received by or made available to the center for the purpose of performing its functions. Why do we want to put their loan?
Because it is covered under section 183, 1183. 1183 of the Constitution gives MDA powers to obtain loan from banks with the authorization of the Ministry of Finance and works to Parliament. So I think it is covered.
This is also a corporate entity.
They are corporate entities.
So that's right to take loans.
They are going
Or they even give out loans.
to secure loans. Okay. Constitution covers them.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. All right, we are here.
Say again. Mr. Chairman,
are we on 13?
Yes,
Okay.
page 13. 19(1)(a). Monies are appropriated by Parliament for the purposes of the center, loans, etc., etc. So, in as much as the bill outlines various sources of funding for the center, but what is not explicitly structured or mandated in the bill is how these funds will have to be used. Now that's where I have not seen that.
For the usage of funds?
Yes, for example.
The usage of funds provided for in the public financial management act.
Okay.
There's another legislation that covers the use of funds.
Mr. Chairman, alimony means you provide the necessary support before the situation gets worsened.
So that is why if you go through finance acts that have been passed by this house, you realize that there are provisions for exigencies, for emergencies, as the case may be. So what we do here is to appropriate money to them. How they use it is provided for in other legislation.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, sorry for taking you back. Being 12 plus, yes, just a correction. 16 plus 16 is directorate and units. Last paragraph, last line. The board may, on the recommendation of the executive director. So something approved, I think that was it's a typo.
The board may, on the
recommendation of the executive director, full stop.
Yeah.
Full stop. Who should not be there?
Center may, for the purpose of carrying out its function under this act, have such director or union as the board may, on the recommendation of the executive director. Yes. As for the recommendation of the executive director approved.
Executive director, full stop.
On the recommendation of the executive director.
16.
I think it's correct.
I think it's
approved
because what the board may, on the recommendation of the executive director, approve. It is correct.
The center may, for the purpose of carrying out its functions under this act, have set directorate or unit as a board may, on the recommendation of the executive director. Okay.
Page 13.
Yeah.
Leader, you are asking for clause 22 to be expunged because it's in variance with the provision in the Constitution. The board cannot approve on budgeted expenditure. It's even against section regulation 30 of the PFM regulation.
Yes, that's exactly what I was drawing attention to when I said even for the emergency withdrawal funds, those provisions are followed. It's especially stated in the Constitution and the PFM Act. You don't overstate them. Even when you have the ministry for extra budgetary support, you really have to follow the procedure. So these are constitutional dictates that we should not really try to overstate them. In fact, I've said that is what for the Child Rights Act. When you continue to overstate the law, the provision in the Constitution, you tend to alter them. The alteration of the law under Section 108 of the Constitution, that's why the treasonable charge. So we tend to avoid some of this duplicity of text, bringing them in form of an act. So we just expunge this one.
So 22 is gone. Page 14. Page 15.
Mr. Chairman, page 14. No, Mr. Chairman, wait. So you don't have any reason to have 22. You only have plus 20 now.
20, yes. So it's 20 now. Yes. No 21, 22. It's 20 now. So page 14.
Page 14.
Annual report.
Yes. Let's look at 21 too. It says here the accounts of the center kept under subsection 1 shall be audited by the Auditor General or an auditor appointed by him each financial year. Chairman, PAC, EU, very well aware that we normally have a time frame for that, but then we have a better way that we normally frame it. Let me just give you the rendition. The accounts of the center kept under subsection 1 shall not later than 3 months after the end of each financial year be audited by the Auditor General or an auditor appointed by him.
I think you should go over the entire process because it would now finally end up in getting the period for which the minister can take such reports to cabinet and then to be tabled in the house. So I would appreciate, I don't know whether it makes sense for you to go through the provision as expressly stated in other legislations for this financial reporting, and you export it to this one.
Yeah, well, that brings us to the one that you're talking about is about the annual report, brings us to 23, the 23-1 that we are going to look at again because it's after the end of the financial year to submit to the minister an annual report, of course, which consists of all of that, except we try to look at other laws and then yes. So, but then if you look at this one now, 3 months after the end of each financial year, I think let's deal with that one first.
So you want us to deal with clause
21
2. Okay. Yes.
The accounts of the center kept under subsection 1 shall not later than 3 months after the end of each financial year be audited by the Auditor General or an auditor appointed by him.
Okay.
That has always been the norm.
Okay.
Then when we get to the annual report, we'll have a look at it again and see what applies.
So do we have any other amendments on page 14? 15?
Now, page 15. Let's look at 23-1 now, the annual report. And in fact, it was this report that was going to incorporate the aspects of the copies that will be laid in Parliament, again within 3 months after the minister will have received the report. So we start with 23-1. The center shall within 3 months.
Then go ahead.
Yes, after the end of the financial year, now I see the point you are talking about, submit to the minister an annual report on the performance of its functions during that year and on its policy and programs.
Okay.
Then you see 23-2 talked about what the annual report should include. So that brings us to new insertion of 23-3. The minister shall lay copies of the annual report before Parliament within 3 months after he has received the report. This one I'm thinking 3 months after he has received the report is too much.
Not too much. It
It
is expected that the minister should take such reports to cabinet before the minister brings the report to Parliament.
3 months.
It is the standard. It is 3-3.
Well, I know it has been the standard, but maybe we're giving them too much time.
Well, they are not giving them too much time because sometimes because the Auditor General may either appoint an auditor to audit them or the Auditor General will audit them directly. It takes time for the audit to conclude and for them to present the report, the management letter and the entirety of the report, and for the report to be adopted by the board before you take it to cabinet and then Parliament. That is why you give it 3 months.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. Then again, the suggestion for new 4. Remember, there are other stakeholders involved, and of course, after the report will have been laid in Parliament, the other stakeholders will need copies. So a new 4, the centre shall make copies of the report available to all stakeholders once it has been laid before Parliament.
I don't think that one is necessary.
Well,
the report is public document.
In fact, sir, I think
I don't think the report is public document.
On the center, really, is really when the report is given to the ministry, they should take charge of what you want to do.
Yeah.
You don't need to state that one.
The report is public document.
Again, the messenger was just trying.
No, it's not like that. We've got the public Honorable, if you don't have any other amendments on page 15, page 16, that's the schedule.
Well, just minor ones on page 15 because we need to just get them done. 25B, we just need the fourth line national early warning and we need to add the and then the same thing for C, we need to add the and. That's it. After the word warning.
Sorry. Let me at this moment recognize the presence of Mr. Ambrose James, the Development Secretary Moped. Chairman, you are suggesting something.
25B and C just to add the word and after the word warning in lines 4 of paragraph B and line C and line 2 of paragraph C respectively. National early warning and
the response.
Again the same thing, national early warning and response. That's it for page 15, Mr. Chairman.
The schedule 16?
The schedule was already added under the sections at the beginning. So,
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, honourable members, I report that the bill entitled the National Early Warning and Response Mechanism Centre Act 2025 Oh, yes, okay. Mr. Chairman, honourable members, I move that the parts 1 to 6, clauses 1 to 26, and the schedule stands part of the bill as amended, if any.
No, there we are. Just leave it as amended. There we are. Honourable members, the question is that part 1 to 6, clauses 1 to 26, and the schedule as amended stand part of the bill. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Parts 1 to 6, clauses 1 to 26, and the schedule form part of the bill as amended. The House resumes.
Yeah, Madam Mr.
Mr. Speaker, honourable members, I report that the bill entitled the National Early Warning and Response Mechanism Centre Act 2025, having gone through the Committee of the Whole House with amendments, now move that the bill be read the third time and passed into law.
Honourable members, the question is that the bill entitled the National Early Warning and Response Mechanism Centre Act 2025 be read the third time and passed into law. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The bill entitled the National Early Warning and Response Mechanism Centre Act 2025 being an act to provide for the establishment of the National Early Warning and Response Mechanism Centre to provide early warning on issues relating to human security and peace initially, and to provide for other related matters has been read the third time and passed into law.
Thank you, Honorable Members.
Do you have any announcement?
All female caucus members are hereby asked to stay in the room immediately after speaking. Signed, Honorable Beata Songa, President of the Female Caucus.
Mr. Chairman. 23, sir. Mr. Speaker. Okay, sir. That's mine. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I need your attention for this one. Mr. Speaker, since the inception of this of the new leadership for which you are part of, you have improved the security architecture of Parliament to a point that we are now enjoying the ambient. However, Mr. Speaker, the CCTV camera within the well here, they are active within the well or outside the lobby. If anything happens beyond the lobby, they are not captured with CCTV camera. And there are certain sensitive areas within the Precinct of Parliament that are not captured. Something happened last week to me and a colleague lost his phone. I misplaced my key. We went to follow the CCTV footage. We cannot trace those items. So I think this is serious. This can be. No, I need to come back again, Mr. Speaker. This is very serious. We may not take it serious now. But in the event something happened very serious that we need to trace the footage of the incident, we cannot track them when it happened beyond the Precinct of Parliament, because there are strategic areas within Parliament that we need CCTV camera. If we are doing it at home for our private use, why not a government institution like this, Parliament? We have to do this, and I am bringing it to your attention as a member of the leadership to ensure that we have CCTV cameras placed at sensitive or strategic locations within this Parliament. Because this is serious. Until one day something will happen, we want to trace. There will be no trace of that. Then it will be shameful to say there is no CCTV footage or camera to trace the incident. I think that's something we have to take very serious and act on it. The SCP.
Your point is well noted. We investigate, and we will not want to be conclusive on the fact that we don't have CCTV cameras placed in specific areas, but we investigate as leaders of this Parliament, and we will take appropriate action. In the absence of any other business, then we check the dates. This House stands adjourned to Thursday, 5th June 2025 at 10 a.m.
You check it and say, well, check it properly. Okay. All right. You never press me one day. Mr. Speaker, you are John, but you'll be at the PRC.
Masoko is waiting for you.
You'll be at the PRC. Masoko will be waiting for you. You check that well. Nobody else.